HGW coming to you live once again. First things first, I've been busy and I wanted to post a video a couple of days ago, but I got pretty busy doing a bunch of stuff. I've also been playing The Last of Us Part 2, which if you guys haven't touched that, you guys need to check that out if you got a PlayStation 4. The game is awesome, and I'm actually, as I'm playing the second one, I'm actually finishing up the first game too. And if you guys haven't touched these things are awesome. Just do the reviews. But listen to real reviews. Don't listen to people that were paid to tell you this game was awesome, because I've been reading a lot of that. But if you like the first one, which I clearly do, it took a little bit to get into, you know what I mean? But I got it, and it's awesome. And the second one takes Ellie's journey for revenge, without spoiling anything, without giving any plot points away. Ellie's on a quest for revenge, and it's pretty sweet. So I just watched a movie this morning, you guys. And if you guys haven't seen this, this is a underrated gem of the 80s, and they do not make movies like this anymore. It's called Bloody Birthday. Now, I can remember when there was video stores still around, you'd go into the horror section, and there was a whole shelf, because some of them would be in alphabetic order, right? It would be, Bloody New Year, Pit of Bloody Horror, Blood Beach, Bloody Mama. So a lot of these titles had bloody in it, and sometimes they just put that word in there. The movie would be tame, but they put that word in there so it would catch your eye, so it would make you think of something. But anyway, Bloody Birthday. And you're probably going, I've heard of it. Is it good? Or maybe you haven't heard of it. Well, it was a small little movie with not a lot of budget. I mean, when you go into this, you can tell that it was very, very tight on the budgetary aspects of this movie. But they made it work. And why does this movie work so well as a horror film? Well, it's got a believable cast, and it's set in the 80s, possibly early 70s. Let's see where it was. 1980. Sorry, look at my notes here. 1980. And they do not make movies like this anymore, as I just said. Why is this movie such a fun ride? Because it throws political correct stuff that wouldn't fly in today's day and age right out the window. And it just tries to be a very well written slasher film. Pretty high body count, actually. There's one, two, like 5 or 6 people get killed in this thing. And the premise of the story is that there's these 3 kids, and I believe it starts out in 1970. I believe that's when this movie takes place, in the movie world here. And they're all born during a solar eclipse. And as you watch the movie, the significance of that is that Jupiter, since the moon was blocked, Jupiter's rays couldn't come in, and apparently it affects birth because... No, it's Saturn. I'm sorry, Saturn. Saturn has a lot to do with astronomy, and there's a little reference in it in the movie, but basically because the sun was in an eclipse mode, these kids all turned out to be little serial killers. And it's unapologetic, guys. I mean, these killer kids basically go after anybody. The town cop, the sheriff, they go after him. They go after a babysitter. And the kills are pretty cool. I mean, there's something out of Friday the 13th. An arrow to the eye is pretty much a reference to Friday the 13th. When a chick gets the arrow stuck. Maybe I'm thinking of Friday the 13th Part 3. But any event, this is an unapologetic slasher movie. And what makes this so enjoyable is, like I said, when you watch this today, they do not make horror films like this. They make, movies where you get the Freddys, you get the Jasons, you get the Michael Myers, and they're predictable. But this kind of laid the groundwork. It took what Friday the 13th made pretty good, and it took it and just bumped it up to adrenaline / fun, if you're a horror fanatic. This movie was directed by a gentleman named Ed Hunt, and it is pretty wicked. It's not as graphic as some things that would come later, but it really capitalizes what I like, is the killer kid aspect. Because, in the 80s, you've had your serial killers, you've had your monsters, you know what I mean? You have, should say, you have all these different killers, but you've never seen a trio of killer kids. And these kids, what makes them so frightening in the film is like with any kid, they come across lovely and they can, sort of fool people. It's pretty wicked. Special effects wise, this thing is pretty cool. Not a lot of blood, but the overall murders in this film are pretty neat, pretty thought out, and pretty original, I would think. So what I'm telling you is, if you're looking for something that's non-PC and basically just throws the rule book out the window when it comes to rules in films, or, somebody off camera going, you can't do that, you can't do this, Bloody Birthday is the movie for you. It is very unapologetic in what it tries to do. And the only thing is this thing ends with an open-end sort of ending for one of the kids. Well, for all of them, actually, because you don't really know what happens after, the initial traumatic incidents, of the film. Now, there was talk of a sequel, but at that point, I think in today's day and age, you'll never ever see a sequel to Bloody Birthday. I can honestly put money down on it. They might remake it. They might, kick it around, but the sequel idea would have been great, but it is dead in the water, ladies and gentlemen. And you know what? When you watch this, you do want a sequel, but after you think about the events of the film, you kind of just go, you know what? It's fine right where it is. Let's leave it. And it leaves your mind to sort of come up with an idea of what would happen. So, in this movie, you're going to see hangings, shootings. One kid in the film, I don't know his name off the bat, but he walks around with a .44 Magnum like Dirty Harry and starts picking people off, or trying to. And very convincing, actually, the kid. Bludgeoning, you'll see people get hung, hit with shovels, like I said, an arrow to the eye. You'll also see, like I said, the kid walking around with the .44 handgun like Dirty Harry. And you do see a little bit of originality in the screenplay. It's easy to make a movie where there's hardly any story with killer kids running around. You just have them take out the entire neighborhood. But it builds toward the final girl theory in the form of a babysitter played by Joyce Lathan. She was probably pretty big in the 80s, and I don't know if she did anything else, but she has the appeal. In fact, everybody in this movie was traumatic, or not traumatic, was fantastic, in their roles. You can find this movie on Shudder, you guys, if you look hard enough. Look up Bloody Birthday from 1980. And it is a very cool throwback to the 80s. And the outfits, some of the music. And, you watch this movie now, and like I said, it's non-PC. The only other movie with killer kids in it was, that I can remember, there was two more of them. One was Children of the Corn, which, that was about the Amish kids that killed all the adult population. And Linda Hamilton was there, right after she did Terminator, she did Children of the Corn. He Who Walks Behind the Rose and all that good stuff. Check that one out if you like that, if you like the idea of a killer kid. Also, Trauma, the same studio that put out The Toxic Avenger, put out a very obscure movie called Children at Play. And the ending climax is something you will never, ever, ever, ever see again. And I stress ever, because in today's day and age, it seems like we've shifted from, throw everything you want on the screen. We don't care. As long as people know it's make-believe, that's fine. But nowadays, guys, you can't show certain things. You can't talk about certain things. You know what I mean? The landscape's changed. But take your mind back. Watch some of those slasher movies I just mentioned. And, if you're wondering why I haven't commented on the world's events, it's because, you know what? Every time somebody says something, people get mad. And you know what? I'm staying out of it. I'm just going to sit here like I told you last review, watch my movies, tell you about these things, and that's what I want to do. I don't want to get involved with anything. I have my opinions, you know what I mean? But I'm not going to sit there and go on and tell everybody what to do, because, you know what? People make up their own mind about things. I just talked about 3 movies. Children of the Corn, Children of Play, and Bloody Birthday. And if you don't want to watch them, hey, cool. Dude, whatever. But, there's some of us that do appreciate that kind of thing. So, that going out of the way, I hope you guys understand why I haven't commented on, anything current in current news. But tomorrow we're going to be doing some more horror movie reviews. And again, I am sorry that I haven't got back to you guys. I've been doing a lot of stuff and trying to watch a couple movies here and there, try to give you a critique. I did watch another movie, Madhouse, and I know I talked about it. Definitely check that one out. Very cool. That's on Shudder as well. Also, Shudder does have a movie that I'm really looking forward to, and the first chance I get down to sit down and watch it, I'm going to watch it. It's called The Beach House. And why this movie hits home with me and why I'm excited to see it is because a couple years ago, I did go to North Carolina. I stayed in a beach house, Sand Fiddler, I believe the beach house is called. You guys can Google it up. It's a real thing. It's for sale now, but unless you're a multi-million-dollar, investor or movie star, it's out of reach. But anyway, I stayed there, and those memories are pretty fresh. So it's kind of like watching a horror film set in the wintertime and going out and playing in snow. You know what I mean? You think about it. You can relate to it. So I'm going to check that out, and I'll give you my full review on that. But, yeah, definitely check out Bloody Birthday. It is a slasher film that does not apologize. And can be campy, could be horrific, and it does have some really awesome Friday the 13th type kills. So if you're subscribed to Shudder, like I said, please check it out. And let me know what you guys think. It's GW. I'll catch you later. And one more thing. I do appreciate the comments. And I want to touch on something real quick. I did that Jaws video a while ago, long time ago, about the Alex Kintner death scene, the alternate death scene, and people have been writing me and saying that they have seen alternate versions, and that when the film come out, it was rated R, and it's been a big back and forth between, what I found out, what they found out. So I'm just going to put this statement out there. In 1975, when Jaws was made, there was no PG-13 rating. That came with the Patrick Swayze film Red Dawn, which was deemed too violent for general public. And of course, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, everybody thinks that's where the PG-13 rating came from. It was actually Red Dawn. You guys can look it up. So anyway, when it came out, yes, there were different alternate TV takes. And I have the 40th edition Blu-ray. And I have seen still pictures of the alternate shot of Alex Kintner's death. I've also heard that the shark did not cooperate, and they were always having problems with the shark. However, people will tell you that it worked. So, was the film rated R when it came out? No. However, that's because the film was different than the book. The book was clearly about a giant shark, and it took some different directions. It also punished Ellen Brody's character for having an affair on Chief Brody. If you guys haven't read the book, read it. If you guys didn't know that, read the book and find out. Just like in Jaws 4, there was a scene in the book where a voodoo shaman cursed the Brody family by bringing the shark back to life. But again, in movie standards, that seems ridiculous. That seems, way out of the normal. So they cut it. Universal cut it and said, you know what? We'll just have the shark show up in Hawaii. No questions asked. In the movie world, you can do that. You can just do things without explaining sometimes. But back to Jaws. So when it was released, yes, there was no PG-13 rating. Was it rated R? Not to my knowledge. And it is common fact that if it was rated R, it would probably be the biggest blockbusting rated R movie ever. What it did say was rated PG, may be too intense for younger children. That's the tagline they spoke to. The film was not rated R. If you go back and look at the film, there was some blood in there. There was some vicious shark attacks, but nothing that pushed the ratings board. The ratings board didn't have to cut nothing. You know what I mean? They shot alternate scenes, yes. For a TV version, yes. But they never made anything too graphic that the ratings board said, you know what, take this out. Not to my knowledge, anyway. But if you guys know something I don't, then, I'd love to hear about it. The film was not rated R. And as far as I know, they shot stills of the alternate death take for the Alex Kintner, murder or shark attack. But I have not seen those on YouTube. I have not seen those on the 40th anniversary edition Blu-ray. And it could be one of those things like they put actually in a movie that they took out, like in Return of the Jedi. Like for the longest time, they left out the scene where Luke falls into the Rancor pit, jumps on the gate, and jumps into Rancor's eye. They took that completely out. That was only in the theater, guys, when they released it. Then they added all the new footage and everything like that. So it could have been one of those deals. I mean, who knows? But I just wanted to take a minute and try to quell the Jaws discussion because that's the video I get the most replies on. And I believe they were planning to shoot an alternate take. The problem is with the shark malfunctioning and this and that, and then maybe they couldn't get it right. Maybe they couldn't match up the lighting. I mean, who knows? Who knows, guys? But like I said, read the book. The book is completely different than the movie. Same stuff, but there's a different alternate, I said story about Ellen Brody being punished for having an extramarital affair. And the book actually has some more Quint stuff, I believe. And I think it gets pretty raunchy toward the end. But like I said, Universal wanted to make this a moneymaker, and they turned it into a PG. But the book is always more intense than the movie, because you can do anything in the book. In film world, there is some rules. You know what I mean? And to make that a mammoth blockbuster, yes, they had to, adapt. They had to make a screenplay and adapt it, and it ran fine. So that's my take on Jaws. And I hope that helps the discussion, at least from my point of view. And I'm not saying that anybody's wrong or right. I'm just saying the research that I did, this is kind of what I come up with. And who knows? Like I said, they could have shown an alternate version on TV with a different scene. I have just not seen that. And I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm saying that it might have been a flash in the pan, one time only, guys. So, anyway, till next time, keep watching the films. I'll keep reviewing them.